Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here. Welcome back. And today we're coming with another book review. We are going to be discussing Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? Or the way that the author frames it in the book, Yinka, Where Is Your Huzband? By Lizzie Damilola Blackburn. And she is a British Nigerian author. And Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? Is about Yinka. We follow a young woman who is going through a hard time. She's British Nigerian in London, and the question that is the title of the book permeates throughout. She's dealing with the challenges of dating and her family having the expectations that you should be married already. You are 32. Yinka, you are 32. Okay, where is your husband? She has a younger sister who is not only married but is with child. When we meet her, it actually kind of opens with the baby shower. So Yinka is really feeling the pressure. We also go through the journey of meeting her friends. But the premise of the book is really us meeting Yinka, who is a young successful professional who in essence has success in every area of her life outside of love and romance and the challenges therein. That's the simple premise, but I promise you all that this book is about so much more than just Yinka dealing with the struggles of not being married. One thing I appreciated right away was the opening with the examples of what does it mean to have a husband, and how all of them were what Yinka does not. Okay, it's like what Yinka does not have. Okay, so that was really fun, and it lets us know immediately that even though there is depth and heaviness to this book, there will also be brevity and lightness. And if you've been following me, you know that that's super important to me when discussing heavy, really emotionally charged topics, to make sure that we also have some humor, just like we would have in life, in the hope that the depth and the pain is not all consuming. And so I appreciated all the relationships we see. One thing is Yinka decides, okay, after her auntie embarrasses her, right, by making her show the fact that she doesn't have a husband, Yinka decides, okay, my best friend, one of her closest friends, has now gotten engaged, and they're gonna have a quick wedding. Like, the wedding is in 6 months, so they're not gonna have a long engagement. So she's like, okay, I have to figure out how I'm gonna have a date by this wedding. So she goes into action mode. She puts into place what she would do professionally, right? She has her target, she has her goals, she has measurements in place that will let us know how she's making progress, right? And she has this whole plan. First things first, she's gonna go to the engagement party. She's gonna meet someone, they're gonna hit it off, boom. They're gonna date, she got a date, wow. Second option, if that doesn't work out, she's gonna go online dating, she's gonna meet someone, have an amazing time. They're gonna date, boom, she has to date for the wedding. These are mainly her two primary ways of making sure she has a wedding, has a date to take with her to this wedding. And we experience the challenges therein, right? We get to watch her go to this dinner, the engagement dinner party, and try to find a date. Watch her put herself out there, right, which is uncommon to her. She's only had one boyfriend in her entire life, and she just really knew that they were going to be together, but then he went off and left her, and she's been dealing with the pain of that, right? She still hasn't fully recovered from that. She's still a little bit heart sore, if not completely heartbroken, right? So let's just say the engagement party was lit for everybody but Yinka, okay? Yinka can't catch a break, okay? So it doesn't go the way that she anticipated at all. I don't want to ruin the book for you all, because, you know, it's a fun read. So I want there to be surprises. But it doesn't go the way that she expects. And actually what ends up happening really catapults her into starting to figure out the issues, and that she's not as far along as she might have thought she was in her healing journey. But it doesn't necessarily make her go forward. Here's the thing about the healing journey, right? It's not a just forward trajectory, right? There are peaks and valleys, and sometimes you go forward and sometimes you take a step back. I don't know if you remember that commercial. One step forward, two steps back. But it's kind of like that sometimes, right? You're progressing forward and then you have something that comes up that triggers you or just catapults you backwards a little bit, and so you realize new things you have to work on. And that's kind of what happens with Yinka, but she doesn't necessarily respond to it positively because she is in the mode of, I have to have a date by any means necessary. And that by any means necessary actually opens up deeply rooted, profound issues that Yinka has, but that are also relevant to us as a people and society in general. And so one thing is, I think one of the big questions that comes up is, what are you willing to do to secure a partner? Does that mean changing yourself, right? And if you are willing to change yourself, then are there deeply rooted self-hate issues that you need to unpack and address? And we get to go with Yinka on this journey, right? Yinka is a darker skinned woman, and that comes with its own challenges in a society that's based on white supremacy and colorism. So she ends up having to deal with that, and it's done so well in this book that it's just a natural progression. None of it feels forced. These are very real issues that people face, and the author writes them from that stance. Yinka is also natural, so she's like, okay, in order for me to be, she used to have really long straight and permed hair, right? She goes natural, she cuts it off, she does the big chop like many people, right? And so her mother, so it's hard to when you have things indoctrinated within your family. So her mother is like, oh, you were so much more beautiful when you had your long hair, why would you cut it off? And so she gets a weave. So it's like, it goes deeper than that as far as what she changes or what she's considering changing for the hope of getting a man, or finding someone to go on this date with, and hopefully having a husband. It's deep. That was deeper than I anticipated, but listen, it was surprisingly good. This book surprised me in multiple ways. Also, just another thing, a big theme is life can be exhausting. Like, while going through and reading this book with Yinka, I was like, she is going through a hard time. She went from this life that was seemingly perfect in every other area except for romance, to professional life not being great, personal life with friendships and family not being great. She still ain't got no man. Like, Yinka was going through it in these challenges, but it was a pleasure to watch her go through it in the way she navigated it. So now, as Yinka goes through each stage of trying to find a significant other, so we get to then go through with her. So the one stage didn't work out about finding a date at an engagement party. Now she's online dating, and that has its own challenges therein. But there's also a guy from her past who she can't stand. They didn't hit it off well. But as she starts getting back into her truest passions, before she essentially sold herself out to climb the corporate ladder, she would agree with that statement, she ends up coming back into people from the past, causing her to really get in touch with things that she had let go of. And another area I like was the relationship she had with her aunt. So she had a number of aunts, right? She had, obviously, I learned this while studying Yoruba, and I mean, we do it inherently in the Black community as well. You call women older than you auntie, right? Obviously not everyone's your auntie, but you do it as a term of endearment and respect. And in Yoruba specifically, which is the culture that she is from, she's from Nigeria, but her family is Yoruba. They call every woman who's I think is like 5 years older than you auntie, regardless of relation, right? So she has a number of aunties, but she also has blood aunties. So she has one blood auntie who is on her side, who is the one that the mother looks to. She is professionally very successful. She would be what we would categorize as the rich auntie. She's living her best rich auntie life. But she doesn't have kids. She's not married. It's a thing. So obviously the other sisters who've gone on and had husbands and had families, whether or not their husbands are now deceased and they're widowed or whatever, they did it that way. So her mother, Yinka's mother in particular, looks to that one aunt as an example of what she doesn't want Yinka to be. And that ends up coming up again full circle down the line when we unpack with Yinka, what's really happening there, because Yinka and her mother have not been close for a long time because her father died of cancer when Yinka was younger. And so that's created a number of challenges with her mother, a number of challenges with her mother and her sister, and just navigating those dynamics. The mother never talks about him. And all of these things converge with Yinka not having a husband, and her aunt, and the fears they're in for Yinka. And it comes up in a very beautiful way towards the end that I think, again, was just another deep subject that I didn't expect us to really touch on in this book, with the family traumas and the generational curses and how you pass those emotions down unintentionally, or just the expectations and the burdens you put on others, or also just the harm that you can cause when you close yourself off to those around you who love you, whether you do it from protection or out of love or the best of intentions, just the harm that that can cause. So there was a lot of trauma being unpacked, but also healing in real time in the book as well, and I really appreciated that. And so those are the big themes of Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? I think things I really appreciated are the style of writing. I really appreciated that even though the title would have one presume that it's only focused on her trying to find a mate, that's not what it was about at all. I appreciated the way that the author unpacked friendships, the way that the author unpacked the journey of love, whether that's familial, whether that is platonic, whether that is self-love, right? I also really enjoyed, what does it mean to sell out, right? What does it mean to betray yourself? All themes here. And how can you come back and heal, right? So there's so much to unpack here. I haven't even touched on all of the areas that the author really made connections, real life connections, and the struggles that Yinka has to go through in order to get to a place where she feels good within herself and what the future holds. Another thing that I really appreciated about the book is the ending. I won't go too much into it here, but you all know that endings are my thing. If endings are not well done, it can definitely put a damper on my perspective of a book. And here I like the fact that Yinka really comes into her own. So whether that means she ends up with a partner or she ends up with herself, the possibilities are all there. But the most important point of clarity is that Yinka has dealt with all of these traumatic aspects of her life in order to get a better understanding of self. And she's also in a position where she can identify what she needs moving forward and who she wants to be in this world. And I just thought that was beautiful. If I had to have any negatives about this book, honestly, it would be hard to identify them. I mean, obviously sometimes Yinka, girl, I was like, whew, do better. And it was just hard sometimes, the emotional, like, just turmoil that knew she had to be going through. But that was part of what made the book so satisfying to read. I actually have no real complaints about it, honestly. I enjoyed it. I think actually one thing I did dislike, and that's just when you consider who the author is writing for. So there were some things that were explained, but I understood it, right? There were some different Yoruba traditions or words or foods or things that were explained because the presumption is that a lot of readers may not know what those were. And so that sometimes, it didn't take away from the book, but sometimes I just didn't think they were necessary. But I understood that the expectation is that a lot of readers who are reading this may not be as familiar with the culture. And instead of them having to go do the legwork, you would just have it there. I kind of appreciate when writers don't do that and they make you do the legwork and they just put you into that world. But it didn't take away from the storyline at all that it was there. So again, no real complaints from me on this book. I greatly enjoyed it. If we're basing it on my scale of read now, read when you have time, or read if you want, contrary to how I went into this book, it had been hyped up a lot. I didn't have high expectations. I would say read now. I really enjoyed it. It's a great read. I've been recommending it to folks in my personal life. So I have to tell you all what I would say. I would say read it now. Absolutely. Go out, read it. I don't think you will be disappointed. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you enjoy it? What were your takeaways? Were you rooting for our girl Yinka? And if you haven't read it, definitely add it to your TBR, your to be read list, and let me know down below if you're planning on doing that. And just also let me know what books you're reading this year. There are some good books coming out this year that I'm super excited about. So I would love to know what you all are waiting for. Maybe I'll do a video talking about the books that I'm anticipating for this year. But as for now, the book that I'm currently reading, and will probably be the next book that I'll review for you all, is Moth to a Flame by Ashley Antoinette. It is the first book that actually inspired the Ethic spin-off series. So I was actually got into this book because I was going to start reading the Ethic series that I'd heard so much about, and in doing my research I found out that Moth to a Flame was actually the first book. And then, similar to The Coldest Winter Ever, how Sister Souljah went on to write the Midnight series because people love the character so much. That's what I assumed going into this book, and so that's what I found out, that Ethic was first introduced in this book. So I started here. I won't go into my opinion of that right now. Obviously I'll do it when I do my review, but that is the book I'm reading, in case you all want to read it as well and join in the conversation that we'll have very soon about it. That is it for me. Until the next time, I'm MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. Please remember to give time, to be kind to each other, and to have the best day of your life on purpose. Peace. Hola, adios. Ciao.